Hey everybody, Ron Phillips here. We're back with Chris Miles as promised. We've got a webinar set up for you guys. It's going to be fantastic. I really hope you participate. Chris is going to tell you in just a second to make sure you ask questions, but I know he's like me. He wants people to participate in his webinar and ask questions and dig in. Listen, I've known Chris for quite a while, and we've done business together. Chris is I'm mostly impressed. There's a couple of reasons why you're listening to him right now. As you know, you don't see a whole lot of people that I introduce to you. I'm pretty guarded about who it is that gets to communicate with the people who trust me. And there's two reasons why you're listening to Chris. So the first one is like I told you. I mean, he saved me a bunch of money, and it's not a small amount. I mean, it's every single year it's between $15,000 and $17,000 off my taxes. That's not chump change. That's a lot of money. With just one of the things that he's shared. But the second, I think, is more profound. The second reason is that, Chris has sent some people over. He's referred some people to us, and they come in with their financial house in order, which is so abnormal in America. It's a testament to the fact that Chris can take people and teach them principles about money that people just don't teach anymore, that people need to know. How do I free up more cash flow? How do I, how is it that I can get more money to invest if I've already invested, or to get the money to invest? How do I better my life? That's what Chris specializes in. He does it so well that when we see his people, they're ready to invest. Not only that, but they have a plan moving forward already about how to generate more and more revenue to continue to invest and better their lives. So I invited Chris to present this webinar to you guys. Listen, follow this all the way through, and you're going to be glad you did. Chris has got some amazing things to share with you, and at the end, he's going to make an offer to you guys. I believe that's free. Based on you being on my list. So I encourage you to stay to the end, listen to him, look at what he has to share. I know you didn't come to see me or listen to me, so I'm going to sign off. I'm going to let you stare at Chris and his PowerPoint and learn a ton. Thank you so much, Chris. Take it away, man.
All right, cool. So yeah, I appreciate it, Ron. I've been in this industry a long time. Like I started out as a financial planner. I was a financial advisor for about 4 years, back from about the time of 9/11 all the way up to about 2006. And then since then, pretty much done the exact opposite of what financial advisors teach, which is why it works. Because that's how you really create wealth, is doing the opposite of what everybody tells you to do. And so I've been around a lot of people that talk about investments and investing. A lot of people that even talk about real estate investing. I've had hundreds of friends do things with real estate investing, and I got to tell you that Ron is totally, as you guys well know, he is the real deal. Like, I don't like posers. I don't like people that pretend to be awesome. I mean, Ron really is that guy. And not to mention, I mean, even in private conversations, when he talks about you guys, he cares about you deeply. He really does, and wants to see the best for you. And so I appreciate, just knowing Ron and be able to offer more value to you guys too, because that's really my whole purpose, is figuring out how to give you more value and help just raise the bar for you guys a little bit and get you some more value. So anyways, I just want to say that first and foremost. So as I said, my name is Chris Miles. I'm a cash flow expert. What that means is I'm all about creating cash flow today, not 20, 30, 40 years from now, but how do we create lifestyle, how do we create better quality life, more freedom, and more money right now. That's the key. Because I'll tell you, for me in 2006, so I actually quit being a financial advisor. The reason I left is because I realized it didn't work. It doesn't work for the clients. It doesn't work for even financial advisors. So why should it work for anybody else? And that's from decades of advice. I'll give you an example. I actually sat down with a guy. He was in the company I was with before, and he had been a financial advisor for over 35 years. So this guy's been a financial advisor since the mid to late 70s. And he sat down with me a few years back and he said, Chris, so what is it you teach differently today that you don't teach, that you weren't teaching back then? And I said, that's pretty easy. So let me ask you, where have you made the most money? In your business or in the investments you've been recommending for people? And without a single hesitation, he said, well, my business, of course. I said, that is the difference between you and me. You're telling people to invest in things that don't work for them. I'm telling people to invest in things that have worked for them, which is primarily their businesses and investments, things that they can control, things that are outside the mainstream box. And I said, therefore, the only one in integrity here is me. I'm the only one that has integrity. And you can imagine it was a pretty darn quiet lunch after that point. It was awesome. He never invited me back out to lunch again. He didn't pay for that $7 lunch, unfortunately. So anyways, I mean, that's the key difference, is that it's about creating cash right now. And I recognize that. Like, I really had to leave that as a financial advisor. I could no longer stay in integrity and keep teaching the same things I taught that have not worked for 30 or 40 years and will continue not to work for the next 30 or 40 years. And this is why I'm so excited to talk to you guys, because you guys get that. Like, you really understand that, and that's why you work with Ron, or why you're following Ron and working to be able to work with him more. Because I'll tell you, he is awesome. He really is the real thing. And like I said, I've seen a lot of people before. And so I left that in 2006. I said, I'll no longer teach about financial advising. In fact, I'll only teach ballroom dancing. So believe it or not, what most people don't know about me is I was actually one of the top amateur ballroom dancers in the country. And I even married my dance partner. We've been married now for over 12 years and have 5 kids. So naturally, we don't really dance as much anymore with those kids running around us all the time. Babysitters just don't love us that much, I guess. But in any case, I said, I'll just go teach ballroom dancing and that's it. And I did that for a time. But I also had a commitment. I said, I want to do something different. I want to do things, just try it out and base things on principles and real legitimate strategies that people use, that obviously all wealthy people are using. And so I listened to people that were millionaires, that were mentors of mine, and I said, hey, what is it you want me to do, or what should I do? Like, whatever you tell me to do, I will go and do that. And so I started following their advice, understand the key principles first, then the strategies to follow up after second. And the next thing I know, by July, that was March of 06, I left being a financial advisor. And then by July of 06, I was able to retire, working just a few hours a week. And I was able to do that by having multiple streams of income coming in, which was awesome. At the same time, it was the most boring time of my life. I got to tell you, it was horrible being 28 years old and retired. I couldn't find anybody other than my friend who worked for American Family Insurance, because they had lots of time on their hands. So I didn't get to do a whole lot. So eventually I got out of that, and then about 2007, I really about mid 2006, I was starting to feel the seeds of it and the angst for it. But by end of 2006 and into 2007, I decided to start teaching a lot of these things. And I'll tell you, like, the one thing I've learned that was key for me to be able to retire then was that I had to understand this key principle, that cash flow creates freedom. Cash flow is what creates freedom. Real financial freedom comes from having cash flow, which is what Ron teaches so well. You see, when you have more cash flow, I mean, if you can imagine this, if you can imagine your life right now, if all of a sudden you found out that your income is going to drop by $2,000 a month, is that going to kind of freak you out a little bit? Are you going to feel a little bit stressed? Maybe some of you would be okay, but I bet you a lot of you would feel a little bit more stressed. Things at home would not be as peaceful anymore, right? If you're married, you probably have issues with your spouse, or they might have issues with you. There might be more fighting. Your kids, you have to tell them, hey, sorry, we can't buy this year, or do this year. Sorry. And so you lose options, right? Versus if you reverse that now, if all of a sudden you say, no, what if we had $2,000 more a month than what we've had in the past, or what we have currently? Now, if you had $2,000 more today than what you have currently, how would that feel? Would that be quite a bit different scenario? Would you be able to relax and breathe easier and say, whew, man, it feels good. Oh, that's going to be great. And, maybe you're just like, oh, we can actually go do something we've always talked about doing, we've never done. Now we can actually go do it. I'll actually have my spouse, or we'll do this with my kids that we haven't done. Now we can actually go and have this. We can go and take time off and vacation and do the things that we want to do and live the life that we want to live. And that's why I tell people that cash flow creates freedom, because cash flow creates more options. And then when you have more options, that's when you have more freedom. You don't need $2 million in your bank account to be financially free. Trust me, I've seen a lot of people with millions of dollars be broke. Like, they're mentally tight. Like they feel like they can never have enough money. They're just stuck, right? We don't want to be there. Here's an interesting point. When I was 28, I was actually able to retire only having about a few $1,000s in the bank. But because I had cash flow coming in, more cash flow coming in from my streams of income than what my expenses were, I was out of that quote-unquote rat race, right? Now, there's some myths around that rat race. I'm not going to get into those too much today, but here's the thing, is that when you focus on cash flow, everything becomes better. It's all about acceleration, not accumulation when it comes to money. So, like I said, less cash flow creates more stress, but when you have more, it's better. I'll tell you, my worst time in my life, I actually was in the hole. I was short every month by about $16,000 a month. $16,000. And just by using some of these key strategies I'm going to teach you today, I was actually able to pay off $900,000 of that in 3 years. And that's actually my family and I. Just a few months ago, we took this picture. All my 5 kids, they're between the ages of 2 and 10. So yes, I do have a litter. We're a very, very vertically challenged basketball team. Since I'm 5'9", my wife's 5'1.5". So we have a very short crew of basketball players, that's for sure. So I tell you this because I know what it's like to have a positive cash flow. I know what it's like to be retired. I know what it's like to be in the hole. There's no way, anything that anybody throws at me, I can't judge them. And I can tell you for sure, it's much more positive to be in a place where it's positive. It feels a lot better when you're having a lot of cash flow. In fact, not only was I able to battle back out of that hole for myself, but I've been able to help nearly 600 clients free up on average $33,000 in their first year alone. This is money we helped find and free up from expenses. Ron mentioned taxes, which is definitely part of that, among many. Also increasing income and increasing cash flow, which is also why I love partnering with Ron with some of my clients, because some of them, they would love and they're very interested in doing real estate. And I say, great, let's find a way to get you connected and get connected with the right people. So I'll tell you that it varies. I've had people only find a few $1,000s a year, and I've had some people. The most extreme case was a guy that, by doing some of the next tips I'm about to share, he was able to find an extra $270,000 in his first year alone. Much of that's ongoing year after year, like most of my clients. So I'm estimating, just depending on different people's situations, that this grand tally is up in the ballpark of total benefit, somewhere in the ballpark of about $50 or $60 million that people have found and freed up in the last 4 or 5 years with me. I don't take all the credit for that, because obviously it's a partnership. They have to take action, and then I just help to guide them along. Now I'll tell you, it's always principles first, strategy second. You have to understand principles first. Now I want you to look at this photo here that you see on the screen. And what do you see? Describe it for me. Describe it for me virtually, that is. What do you see? Most people will say, hey, it looks like a kid or a guy or somebody standing on a log, right? When I first looked at this, I said, wow, it looks like he's standing up over a cliff or something. I was getting kind of scared of heights when I was looking at that. I thought, oof, that looks crazy. Some people said, no, they're actually by a lake. And notice what the caption says here. It says, there is no lake in this photo. Now, here's what I want everybody to do with this. I want everybody to turn your head to the right 90 degrees. So everybody turn your head to the right like this. Right? Now look at the photo now. What do you see? Do you notice how this person is actually laying on the log? So you see the trees are actually going up. They're going up into the air. That's the sky. That's not a lake. That's not reflection. That's actually trees going up into the sky. He's just laying on a log. See, perspective is everything. How you see things and how you see your money, how you see your investments, how you see the world makes the world of difference. I mean, this could be the difference between poverty and wealth right here. But you have to understand there's key principles you need to understand first. Now, I'm not going to go into a ton of these principles because I really want to give strategies. That was the big thing Ron wants. He wants the strategies. But let me give you a simple perspective of what you need to understand when you're looking at money. Because I'll tell you, people that teach about money just come from a place of scarcity. you come from a place of scarcity, it's a world of lack, right? There's never enough. You could, there's always limits. Somebody's always put a ceiling on you. Sometimes it's a glass ceiling. You're a victim versus the hero. You feel like, everything's about money, and it's all about trying to create value there, or take value, and how you have to have the finite pie. If you take so much of the pie out, then somebody else loses. So if you want to be a nice, benevolent person, you take out less of the pie so that everybody else can win. Things like that. I mean, that's scarcity, right? Where abundance is different. Abundance says, no, we want to actually look at this from a standpoint of that there are no limits, that there's plenty to go around. In fact, that as the pie can actually keep increasing because we keep expanding it by growing and improving things, and then everybody becomes wealthier, right? There are no limits. There are all possibilities. When I first started learning about real estate investing, the possibilities there, like my whole world was blown to shreds. Maybe yours was too. Because I remember as a financial advisor, I used to tell people, and I remember going to my brother-in-law. Now, my brother-in-law was a business owner. He had the right mindset. He had more of an investor or a business owner mindset that I love. And he said, well, Chris, you're saying if I give you $10,000 to play with, you can make me maybe 12% in the market? Because back in the early 2000s, we all actually believed you could really get 12% in the market, not actually realizing that the average is closer to 7%, and that's before fees being taken out, right, and taxes. So I'd say, yeah, that's right, 12%. He said, okay, Chris, from 10,000 bucks, 12%, that's $1,200 a year. Now, Chris, I could take 10,000 bucks, I can put a down payment on a semi-truck that I would turn around and sell in my business a few months later. I would make in a few months from that semi-truck $20,000 from that 10,000. I would double my money in a few months versus $1,200 a year with you. So Chris, why would I invest with you? And you know what I said? I said the same thing that every financial advisor said that I've heard them say to you, especially if you're in business or you do investing. Every one of them, they'll say this one answer to you that's a bunch of bull. You know what I said? I said, well, you know what? You should be diversified. You shouldn't put all your eggs in that one basket, right? You should be diversified. You should put money here and here and here, primarily the things that I'm selling you, all the crap that I sell you, you should put it there. Which, by the way, every financial planner I've met with, even the ones that understand some good stuff, they still think you should be putting all your money with them. Which is why I stopped selling financial products. I'm like, that's ridiculous. That's a bunch of bull. Because that's not the best thing for you in a lot of cases. Sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. And I said, enough's enough. And so he didn't do business with me, which I'm so grateful for. He still went and sold those semi-trucks and made a lot of money. Here's the key, is that there's 3 different perspectives around money. 1, there's spenders. Spenders, what do they do really well? You got it. They spend, right? Now, they're not always bad. They get bad flack from people, especially in the media. But spenders aren't always irresponsible or addicts to buying things. Sometimes they do it because either 1, they know that if they don't spend money on things they enjoy, eventually down the line, they'll probably spend money on things they don't enjoy. You ever notice that? Like sometimes you save up a little bit of money, the next thing you know, it gets used up in something that's more responsible or something that's unexpected, right? And granted, that's going to happen in life. But because of that, they say, forget it. I'm going to buy what I want now, and I'll worry about that later. Other people had such tight-wadded parents. I actually have a parent like this. They're so tight, so cheap, that you could probably look them up in the dictionary, and their picture will show up, right? And those people, because they're so tight, you want to rebel against them and go and be a more spender. I personally end up choosing more of the path of the saver, but I've done both. But I'll tell you, the spender comes from a scarcity point of view. Savers also come from scarcity. See, savers are like every financial planner you see, or a lot of them, as well as about every financial pundit that you hear on the news. Savers also come from a place of scarcity. And remember, scarcity takes money out of your pocket. It doesn't pay you a dime. It only takes money out. See, in this case, when you're a saver, you hate paying bills. You hate having to pay for anything. You hate paying taxes. You hate paying for anything at all. You hate having debt. You want to pay it off as fast as possible. You can never save enough. You can never save enough to feel good. You'll save a little bit and feel better, but you'll never feel truly free in a saver's mentality. Far extreme, you become a hoarder. You can never become financially free as a hoarder. You could buy 2,000 properties and you will still feel broke. You do not want to be that person. And so the middle is a steward. Now, this is more what Ron has been teaching you, whether he's called it this or not. See, stewards take the best of the spender and the saver and put them together into one. Because see, spenders are at least willing to use money, right? The problem is when they use money, it just goes out and never comes back. Savers are good at being wise. A lot of times they're just not willing to use money, right? But they're willing to be wise and think about it, and they're willing to keep it and manage it. If you can take both of those together, someone who's willing to use money with those who are willing to manage it and be able to keep it safe, put them together, you get a steward. Stewards are all about trying to increase and grow things. They want to make things better. They want to make it more beautiful and better in general and bigger. They want to increase their stewardship. They want to become more wealthy. They want more, and they know that they have to let money go out and in, and it flows in and out. This is why we talk about cash flow, right? It's got to flow in and out. And so stewards are always trying to find ways to make it better and improve upon it. When they do that, then their stewardship keeps increasing. That's what a steward does. That's what I'm advocating you do, especially when you deal with investing and so forth. This is very much the business owner and investor mentality. You have this mentality, and everything starts to work better. If you have a saver mentality doing real estate investing, you're going to hate it because you're going to have mortgages, you're going to freak out, and you're going to be worried, and you can never buy enough properties. Spenders, you probably won't have enough money to be able to make anyways, and whatever you make from the properties will probably get spent, and you'll feel like you're just back at square one. You'll never feel like you're in the right place. So this is key. You got to understand these three perspectives and aim on the middle path, which is the steward path. Make sense? Okay, so let's get into the strategies here really quick. So one, you need to start tracking your money. This is very important as you try to increase the stewardship. Remember, whatever you put your attention and focus on will expand and grow. But whatever you ignore will leave you. It'll shrink and decay and go away, right? So when you're looking at your money, you got to be a wise steward with it by knowing what's coming in and what's going out each month. Now, for my personal money, for tracking personal money and be able to see this and be proactive, not reactive to it, I use a site called mint.com. Here's the cool thing. It's a free service, which is great. It's free, and what it can do is you can see all of your money and everything into one place. This also includes any type of mortgages, loans, credit cards, car loans, you name it, all of it's in one place. No more having to log into 700 different accounts. You can see it all in one place, real time. It can actually track things for you. So when transactions happen, like money's coming out of your checking account, for example, you can even categorize it, and then it starts to remember the category, so it actually becomes smarter over time so that you don't have to keep tracking forever. So what I do is I take about 5 to 10 minutes each week. Now, 5 minutes for just personal, I do another 5 minutes or so for my businesses. 5 to 10 minutes because I have 2 businesses that I manage plus my personal money. So no more than 10 to 15 minutes a week, I can keep up to speed on my money. I can see what I've spent. I can try to plan a little bit about what I need to spend for that week and what I need to make sure is in there for so that I'm not caught with my pants down, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, not literally, right? And so to give you an example, I had one couple where they were in the hole $250 a month. That was it. And I said, well, let's look at it. We started to look at the money they were spending, found out they were paying $300 a month in overdraft charges because the timing of how they would pay things was off. They weren't tracking it. So I said, wait, if you get rid of these overdraft charges, you're now in a place of at least positive $50 a month. That's good. I mean, and they're still paying down credit cards, so they actually had positive money. That was before we did anything else. I'll tell you, if you ever say you're too busy, this is especially true of entrepreneurs, small business owners, very true. If you ever find yourself saying, I'm just too busy to even worry about this, and you're just trying to make more money, I will guarantee you'll find at least $500 a month, if not over $1,000 a month, that's being blown. That's just being wasted that you don't even know about. I've seen that be true time and time again. And if you think about that, I said find $4,000 in 40 minutes is my goal. For some of you, just tracking your money might be all 4,000 of that in the next year, right? Easily. So usually we find at least a few $100 a month. Sometimes it's a lot more. I had one lady, she had no clue why she was making $250,000 a year between her and her husband. She couldn't figure out why they were going in the hole each month. When we finally got her to track it, and it took a month and a half for her to actually get me the numbers for 1 month just to see what was going on, found out that month she had spent $5,600 in just eating out. Not groceries, eating out. You throw in groceries with another $1,000, it was like well over $7,000 a month just on food costs alone. So I told her, hey, why don't we cut that back to only, I know, only $1,000 a month eating out. And she's like, I think I could do that. I said, good, let's try that out. Did it, and we started doing some other things that in grand total, we freed up over $70,000 that year. That was huge. And like I mentioned before, this one point right here, this seems simple, but I had a dentist that I worked with that, and he was out in Virginia, I believe it was, or North Carolina, out in the East Coast. He actually, we already freed up, doing some other strategies, we freed up about $5,000, $6,000 a month for him already. But he said, you know, Chris, I just took the things you taught me with my personal money, applied it to my practice, and I found I was overspending and just with money being wasted here and there and everywhere, about $16,000 a month. I said, wow, that's about 200 grand a year there, not to mention the other 70 grand or so that we helped you find. Wow, that's about 270,000 a year. He said, yeah, that's pretty awesome, huh? I said, that's incredible. Hey, 10% to the house, right? So I'll tell you, I mean, that's a big deal. And so tracking money is key. By the way, if you have a business, and especially if you start managing multiple properties, you definitely want to make sure you have businesses set up, business entities. We'll talk about this a little bit too. But if you have a business, use something like QuickBooks instead. QuickBooks is much easier to use if you're starting to get more in the business mode, business owner mode versus just a self-employed or a employee type mode. So QuickBooks is great for business. Mint is perfect for personal. All right, moving on. Second one is selling assets. Now, this might seem like a no-brainer so far, what I'm giving you. I'm easing you into this a little bit. But this one, believe it or not, a lot of people miss it, or they just don't see it. Ron gets this really well when it comes to real estate. Like, for example, he was talking to one of my clients, and it's the same kind of thing I mentioned, but I was so glad he said it. Because you know that when you build equity in a property, one, because really equity, if you think about it, net worth is kind of worthless. Net worth is just potential that could be used to create more cash flow, right? So the option was, do we refinance or do we just sell off the property? So Ron told one of my clients, he said, listen, you can refinance it, but your payment's going to go up and the cash flow you're going to make from it will increase your cash flow. Or you could sell off this one property, take all the equity out of it, use that to buy properties. You know, say you'll lose the payment, you'll lose the cash flow from that one property, but the amount of money that you're able to free up and use will actually increase your cash flow by more. And he said, therefore, from that standpoint, maybe we should just sell off this property and go buy multiple properties with that equity that was in the house. I love that he said that, because that's what I mean by selling assets. As a steward, if you're not going to use it, lose it. That's my mantra. If you're not going to use it, lose it. That means either sell it, donate it. Donating more with smaller items, right? Like, for example, you might donate things to Goodwill or whatever. By the way, you can donate to Goodwill up to $500 a year and have a tax write-off and not have to itemize each thing you donated. So that's up to $500 a year you could free up just by doing that in taxes. So sell it, donate it, or just give it away. You know, declutter yourself, get rid of stuff. During my hardest times, this is where my wife and I actually said, let's sell off some things. Let's sell off furniture we're not using, things in storage we're just not using. My speakers for my entertainment system. I'm a huge movie buff. It's surprising I haven't quoted movies already to this point, but I love movies, right? And I had a nice theater system that was great in my old house, but not in my new one. And so I kept it around for 4 years, sitting in the garage in a box. And finally, last year, this is how bad it was. Last year, I finally said, you know what? Let's get rid of it. Like, let's just sell them off. Sold them off for like $300, nothing big. But got rid of them and said, it's done. Great. And actually, I made my money back from what I spent on them because I bought them at a good wholesaler. So, I mean, just things like that. See, the point we do that, the reason why we do this is because if we can free up this cash and then turn around and use it somewhere else to accelerate things, not accumulate, but accelerate and do things better. I mean, what if we could use that money to pay off a credit card and help free up some cash there? What if we can use that money to improve upon what we're already doing? That's the kind of stuff we want to do. So selling off assets is a big one. Debt. This is a fun one. I love talking about debt. Now, some of you are already getting a different mentality because the mentality of a steward and the mentality of an investor or business owner is very different than all the financial talking heads out there that are telling you to have nothing to do with it, to pay it off, to live off rice and beans and just live off in absolute fear and scarcity until you finally become debt-free. And what I find is those people that become debt-free come to me later and say, Chris, I'm lost because I don't feel any better off. Sure, we don't have these payments, but now we're just starting from zero. We feel like we're starting over again. I said, exactly, because you didn't know how to leverage debt from a stewardship perspective. So what I tell you is, don't fear debt, but do respect it. Don't live off rice and beans. Don't do those things that actually will eliminate. Because getting angry about debt, like some people will say, you got to get angry. You got to get mad at your situation. Listen, anger and getting mad does not pay your bills. It doesn't even change your life. All it does is make you more miserable. So find ways to enjoy this and do it wisely. A wise steward knows how to use it. I always love when people tell me that if they're Christian, for example, they'll say, hey, Chris, well, in the Bible, it says you shouldn't be in debt. I said, well, that's interesting. Because in the Bible, there's the parable of the talents with 3 people that were borrowing money from their master to go and use and make more money with it. You know what's ironic? The ones that actually went and made more money with that debt are the ones that end up being rewarded with more. The one that buried it and just paid it off in the end, said, hey, I paid you back, but I didn't do anything with it because I was scared, didn't want to lose it. That one is the one that got cast out. He says, get out of here. You stunk. Basically, this is my own version of the Bible, right? But that's pretty much what happens. So if it's so evil, why do people keep, why is it such a bad thing? And if it was so evil, why do people actually not pay off their house by just selling their house off and say, whew, debt-free, I'll just rent for the rest of my life? Of course not. We know that we can leverage debt to become and use better if we use it wisely. And here, let me throw out a bonus here. If you've got different loans, here's when people ask me, well, Chris, should we ever pay off debt? The answer is absolutely yes. But it depends. The first thing I tell you about debt, if you're going to pay it off, is ignore the interest rate. Ignore it. Stop paying attention to that interest rate. The interest rate does not matter that much, especially if it's a car loan or a credit card. The interest rate really does not do much to you. It doesn't have enough time to. Even on a mortgage, it's not always the most important thing. So ignore the interest rate. Instead, focus on the cash flow. See, I learned this firsthand because one thing I did was really bad. Is remember that when I was in that $16,000 in the month hole? See, during that period of time, I had tons and tons of money in equity. I was very asset rich, but I was cash poor. I had thrown a lot of my money and my equity into my house, right? The wise thing to do that this guy might agree with here on the screen, right? But what ended up happening is that when things got tight and all of a sudden, I went to try to get money out of my house, I couldn't get it out because they said, sorry, we can't get you to qualify for a loan. I had $150,000 trapped in equity, trapped in my house that I could not get out. And that was a real rough time. And then I watched that equity disappear as eventually those markets pulled back. That is not a good place to be. It's not a good place to put your money and put your savings. I would have been better off keeping it in a jar in my backyard and leaving it there, and then be able to use that to keep me going and help keep me afloat during those rough times while I got back on my feet. And so I'll tell you, just paying off debt is not a wise thing, and focusing on interest rate is not great either. But if we do pay off a loan, here are the loans that I want to pay off. I want to pay off the one that has the lowest balance with the highest payment. Lowest balance with the highest payment. This does not mean the lowest balance. Some people will tell you to pay off the lowest balance. Not always. It's the lowest balance with the highest payment ratio. I call that my cash flow index. In fact, let me just teach it to you guys because this is something that's very awesome. I take the balance of the loan divided by the monthly payment, the minimum monthly payment, and I'll get a number. The lower that number, the more I want to pay it off. If it's below a 40, especially if it's below a 20 or 30, get rid of it as fast as possible. If it's higher, you may not want to get rid of it. Maybe we restructure and do some things. Now, this isn't always true because if your whole goal is to help build up credit, because a lot of times I'll have people say, Chris, I want to get into my own home, or Chris, I want to buy investment properties and use my credit. Okay, well then we don't always want to free up cash flow because what if you have enough debt to income ratio that you're okay? Let's focus on building up credit, which I'm doing with a few clients right now and doing some things that way where we change the strategy a little bit. So paying off debt, don't always go with the highest interest rate and don't always go with what people tell you to pay off. It really has to be the right strategy based on what you're trying to do. You're trying to build credit, trying to help debt to income ratios, whatever it might be. My whole goal is, for the most part, is how do I get the biggest bang for my buck? So in fact, let me give you an example here of how that works. Actually, no, let's move on, and I'll give you an example later because I want to tie this all together here. So anyways, that's the way I want to do with debt. Pay off the lowest balance with the highest payment. Make sense? Awesome. Next one, taxes. This one's always fun because here's the thing is that I'm sure you have a really nice accountant or CPA. The likelihood is, no matter how nice they are, most do not teach you what you should be doing with your money. And I don't mean with your money, but with your taxes, how to benefit before the year is over. Usually it's always about hindsight 2020 of, well, you could have done this, or, hey, you could probably invest in an IRA. Here's one thing I'll tell you. If you have an accountant that's telling you, especially if you're an investor or a business owner, if they're telling you to go stick money into an IRA to save on taxes, that is a bunch of bunk. That is a bunch of bull. Here's the thing. Are taxes going up or down in the future? More likely than not up, right? Why would we want to defer paying taxes until a later date? So, and even then, not touch any money at that point till a later date, just to save a little tax, which really doesn't save tax because you just defer your income to a later date when taxes are higher. And by the way, even if taxes aren't higher in the future, just because of inflation alone, you have to pull out more money to live every year or every decade. Well, then you're going to have to pull out more anyways. So even if tax rates stay the same, you'll have to be in a higher bracket because you have to pull out more money. Does that seem like insanity to you? Here's the kicker with that. I've had accountants admit to me that the only reason they do that is because they want to keep your business. And they want to try to save you money today so you'll stay with them another year. That is not the reason to have an accountant. And if they ever tell you to do that, they do not see from the eyes of a business owner or an investor. They see from just a pure accountant standpoint where they've got these blinders on. You do not want to be that accountant. You don't want to be with that accountant. You want an active accountant that's going to be able to teach you how to be proactive, how to find ways to free up cash right now with using your taxes, and how to have more money to put back into your investing and create more cash flow right now. That's the focus. Unfortunately, almost no accountants have that perspective. There's very, very few that are. I found a few of them, but they're very, very few and far between. Even if they think they specialize in real estate investors, they usually don't think like real estate investors. Drives me nuts. So here's a few key things. Now remember, I am not an accountant. Never have been, never want to be. But I have had a few things that worked in my life and a lot of my clients' lives that I'll share you just a few strategies that naturally you should go talk to a CPA or an accountant to see if these work. Warning on that. You go talk to a CPA or an accountant, they will probably get threatened by the fact that somebody else taught you this, that you'll learn more in a couple minutes with me than you have in years with your accountant. And they'll try to say, no, you don't want to do that because you get red flagged by the IRS. The reality is, no, you won't. If you're doing it right, you shouldn't get red flagged for any of these things I'm going to talk about here. But again, you need to consult a good CPA. One is that if you're a real estate investor and you're starting to have a business out of this and making cash flow, you better start tracking all your miles. Here's what I love about real estate investors. Everything you can do, travel-wise, could be potentially a write-off. Because who says you can't go into another area, another place, and go check out, start pulling out flyers and stuff and saying, hey, I'm looking at properties. Is this a place I want to invest in or not? You might even look at other places and just say, you might go to a nice resort and say, how do they make a good experience with the resort? Should I make my rent a little bit better quality and increase that rent as a result? Things like that. So maybe you go to a 4 or 5 star resort and say, hey, yeah, I might be on Waikiki Beach, which actually I'm going to next year. You might be going to Waikiki Beach, but hey, are there things I can learn from this that I can apply to my own business as an investor? Maybe I can check out properties there and what are they doing? Because obviously they're renting out properties. Do I want to do vacation homes? Maybe I don't want to do vacation homes. Maybe I want to stay a single family. All great things you can start discussing with Ron and see the possibilities there, right? And with Ron and his team, like with Brent, with all those guys there, right? So that's one thing. So travel, mileage. Also, when you travel, you can write off lodging. You can write off food. You can write off entertainment in a lot of these cases too. One thing I tell a lot of my entrepreneur clients is most of my clients are almost all investors and business owners. One thing I tell them is say, listen, if you can go on a vacation, say you want to go to Disneyland with your family, could you take things you're learning from Disneyland, how they're so good at creating experience, like I mentioned that 4 or 5 star hotel, and start writing off that entire trip? Here's the key. If you want to write off the entire trip, the majority of those days need to have some sort of business at some point during those days. It may only be a few minutes during that day, but that's all that matters. And you got to be able to prove it, right? You got to have it in a calendar or document whatever you did. You can't always prove it, but you can usually document it, right? And so I tell people, hey, if you've got a 7-day vacation, 4 of those days need to have some sort of business. 3 can be totally not that way at all. So last year, I went and traveled to visit, I went to speak, and then I went to visit family. I would travel through Idaho, then Washington, and Oregon. I spent almost a whole half a month there. Great thing is I was doing webinars from there. I was meeting potential clients. I was meeting with current clients, check out their a lot of them were chiropractors, so I was checking out practices and stuff. I was going to visit all kinds of people just to be able to make that a write-off. I call it a bizcation because I can go and make that a business write-off and be able to write off the whole vacation. It's great. So I still have to enjoy time, but you have to do a little bit of business along the way. If you're a real estate investor, you got all kinds of potential because there's houses almost everywhere you go. There's always real estate you can look at. So that's a big key one. 2, if you have kids that are under the age of 18, if you structure it right with businesses, you can actually pay them and get a write-off up to $5,000, about almost $6,000 a year. This depends on when you watch this. The rules keep changing. That number increases. But it's about $6,000 a year per kid. So I have one client. She actually has 6 kids. And all of a sudden she realized, wait a minute, you tell me, 1, there's no age limit. I said, no. I'm like, if they can do something that could be considered a business activity or something that could be a job of some sorts, then yes, you could pay them and you could write that off. And she said, wait a minute, so what about the little kids? I said, even little kids. I told her the story about my kids who got hired to be in a bubble commercial. They played in a playground for 2 hours. You got paid $12 an hour. Obviously, could we use our kids for doing things with models, or being like child actors and things like that, be on camera? We can do all kinds of stuff that way, right? Also, we there's things like in your case with real estate. Hey, could you have them start to do things? Can they help you with the transactions in some way, shape, or form? Could they help you create a video maybe, or take pictures? Could they do that? I know my little kids love to steal our camera anyways. Why not hire them to take photos if they're going to use it, right? Could they do that? Could they do some clerical, administrative stuff? Could they do things that are like cleaning out your office, like my home office you're seeing right here, right? Could they do any of that stuff, right? All that kind of thing. All those kind of things are possibilities. Again, talk to a CPA. But if you can imagine my client's delight when she had 6 kids, she realized that that's almost $36,000 a year she could write off, and that's also money coming in as income that can be used to pay for their schooling, extracurricular activities, college, you name it. All stuff they can have and coming in tax-free. But again, it's got to be done right. But you can avoid payroll tax if you structure it correctly. Another thing too, have the right structure, the right business entity. Do you have, most times if you're a real estate investor, you're gonna have an LLC and holding your assets in that. Sometimes you might have an S corp to go along with it too. But there's lots of ways to free up cash there just by having the business entity. And yeah, a lot of times you can pay, depending on the entity, you can pay your kids from that too. And here's the main reason I love it. Not only the tax savings, but also I love having separation of my liability. I love knowing that if somebody sues me here in my business, they can't sue me here with my personal life, if I do it right. By the way, do not let an accountant set up your business for you, your corporation. That is practicing law without a license, and they usually don't do it right anyways. So get an attorney, a good attorney, to do that for you, right? Another one, here's the last one. This is the one that Ron was telling you about. Corporate rent. You can also have your business rent your home. Rent your home, where you live. This is something actually, I love the story that Ron told me yesterday. I actually didn't know about this story, but there was a bunch of wealthy guys that were in Atlanta, Georgia. I don't know if they were with Augusta or whatever it was, but the big golf courses out there, nice ritzy ones. They wanted to find a way to rent out their own home, have their company pay for their own vacation home out in those areas for those few days and have it as a write-off. And so they were able to slip this into the bill, and I can't remember the exact code. It's like 201G, something like that. But in any case, with this code, you can actually pay yourself. You don't want to go over the 14 days because that's where it becomes rental income, right? But if you stay below 14 days, you're paying for 1 day. Maybe it says periodically. Maybe it's about once a month you're paying for the use of your home. And say you charge like what the Marriott average is nationwide. And this could differ depending on your area. Say it's $12.50 a month every day you do that. Well, $12.50 times 12 days is $15,000. And if you did up to 13 or 14 days, it's even more than that. It could be up to 16 or 17,000. And it depends on what you pay for that property. Again, this is where you want to consult with an accountant, right? But doing that can actually free up, like I said, easily between $3,000 and $6,000 a year in taxes. That's money coming in as income that is not being taxed. So when you pay for that rental of the home. As long as you don't go above those 14 days, all that money is coming in tax-free, and it's a write-off for your business. That right there, for some of you, was probably more than worth $4,000 alone. Again, like I mentioned, you got to check with the CPA. Here's what I'll tell you. I just heard about this less than 2 years ago from the CPA that I use on my team. I have a whole team of people around, attorneys, accountants, insurance people, investment people, mortgage brokers, you name it. I got all kinds of people that help support my clients. And he just taught me this just about 1.5 years ago. Almost every accountant I've talked to does not know about this. So if you ask them, most of them will say you can't do that. They won't even look it up. That's how lazy they are. But you can. It's there. It's very, very easy to do. And I've got a couple of accountants that can verify that. Not just one, but 2 different ones from different companies can verify that. So anyways, lots of ways you can write off things, but I can't, not all of them I can get into, but those are just a few key ways. Pretty cool so far? Awesome. Let's talk about income, because I don't want you just to free up money and expenses, because you can only do that so long. But how about making more money? I want to make more, right? I'm sure you do too. Now, you're doing a great job of this. Some of you are investing in real estate. Some of you are hoping to. That's one great way. Now, let me speak to those of you that maybe work a normal 9-to-5 type job. Here's the key principle you have to understand that all strategies build out from to create more money. This is the core secret that allows you to make more money everywhere. You ready? The core secret is this, is that dollars follow the value you create for other people. Dollars follow value that you create for other people. What does that mean? It means this, that especially in an abundant state of mind here, right? From that perspective, nobody wants to pay you money unless they believe that whatever they're receiving is worth more than what they're paying you. Otherwise, they'd never pay you money, right? This applies even to real estate investing. You're providing a value or a service to people by giving them a place to live that they don't have to go and purchase, but they can rent it. They're willing to pay X amount of dollars. Even if it's more than the mortgage payment, they're willing to do that because you're giving them something that's creating a convenience. If you focus on not just the property, because the property doesn't write you a check. Sorry to say this, but homes don't pay you money. They don't write checks. They can't even hold the pen. It just falls out of the wood frame, right? But people in those homes do pay you. So if you want to make more money, focus on how you can provide more value for them. Now, of course, you got to be careful. There's a lot of diminishing returns. You don't want to keep providing value in real estate, just by throwing extra bonuses at them. Eventually, they may stop paying for it, right? But what can you do to add more value that they see as valuable and they want to take care of your property? They want to be in that property. They want to pay you. That's the goal. Now, if you're working a job, this also works. I had some clients, for example, that they, one of them, his name was Brian. He's now living in Wyoming, but he used to live in Utah. Brian had actually gotten a position with a company. He was making $15 an hour. And I looked at all this cash flow. I said, listen, we got you down to bare bones, but we still need to make more money to make up the difference. And so we talked about how to get a raise. And I told him, I said, Brian, if I were to go back in time and get a job again, because really I haven't had a job for years. I've always been in business for the last 13 years now, right? I said, but if I ever get a job again, I would go to them and ask, listen, what can I do that would be valuable for you and the company that would merit me a raise? What kind of value can I provide for you guys? What can I do that would merit me a raise? So he did. He asked them, and they said, okay, we'll give you a list of things to do. Gave him that list. What was interesting is they said after a few months, they said he came back and he said, I did it all. They said, all right, well, we have to give you that raise. They bumped him up to about $17 an hour. So he was happy. Well, guess what? An opportunity came to get a different position in that same company. He got it, got bumped up to $20 an hour. Now he stayed there for 10 months. After that 10 months, they did an annual review and they said, hey, you did a great job for us. We're thinking about giving you a $1.15 an hour raise. And Brian said, no way. I've done so many things. I've worked extra hours for you and I always billed you. I've done this, I've done this, and done this, and done this. I'm worth way more than that. And the manager said, all right, okay, fine. What do you think you deserve? He said, I want $5 an hour more. So I want $25 an hour. Manager thought for a moment. He said, all right, I'll give it to you. And I'll throw that $1.15 on top of it as well. So he got up to $26.15 an hour. Now, he said no more raises, but over the next 4 or 5 months, he got 2 more raises. He got up to about almost $29 an hour. He went from $15 almost $29 an hour in a year and a half, almost doubling his income. you can imagine that increased the possibilities a lot more than what he was currently seeing. This has also worked recently. I just had somebody last month, one of my clients, that he was making about 10,000 or so a month, doing his job. He was working for a bank, and I told him, he said, I feel like I'm getting capped out. And I said, well, have you ever asked them how you can create value for them? He said, no, I haven't. I said, go and ask them. I told him the same story I just told you about Brian. I said, go ask your manager, say, what can I do to merit me a raise or give me that promotion to do another job? There's a promotion he was hoping to get. He knew that he might be in the running, but he'd have to jump through certain hoops. He just didn't know what those hoops were. I said, go ask them. So he did. I said, in fact, the whole investment that you should be doing in the next few weeks is investing in just doing that, doing whatever they ask you to do and just focusing there. Even if it means more hours for now, do it. Because the job promotion actually could get him up to about $14,000 a month on average. So a $4,000 a month increase, right? So he did. A few weeks later, I talked to him on the phone. He says, guess what? I got the promotion. I beat out the other guys to get that promotion. I said, awesome. Well, what did it for you? He laughed. He said, well, I asked them. And even when I asked them like why I got it, they said, well, the reason we gave it to you is because you were the only person out of everybody to ask us what was required to get this promotion. So that really impressed us. And the fact that is that you were pretty good. You're on the above average on the other skills for that job. And so because of that and that, we gave you the job. I said, so you're saying that actually works, that principle works? He said, yes. I said, great. If you can get that income up, and that can open up all kinds of doors to do more real estate. And not to mention, you capture that money and start using that to funnel that away to start building up some savings, and especially if you start doing some cool things like, I know I got a guy on my team where we do a lot of things with life insurance, how to funnel that through and do it in a way that doesn't hurt your investing, but actually builds it up and you're making more money more than once. I know Ron talks about this sometimes, but I'm telling you, it's awesome when you can do that right. Funnel that money and start making money on all this money. It accelerates, it just builds and grows, and it's awesome. Now, if you're in business, focus on finding ways that provide value. I deal with a lot of entrepreneurs who talk a lot of ways about marketing and how to build their business and be able to get more money coming in by providing more value. Ultimately, income comes down to the same thing, is how do you go about providing value? In fact, the way I was able to retire when I was 28 is I was able to create a good win-win-win scenario. I was really good at connecting people, just like I did with Ron, right? I connected my clients with Ron. The cool thing is Ron's happy and the rest of his company's happy. My clients are happy. And as a result, because my clients, that's what they want to, that's what they pay me for, to do this kind of stuff, I'm happy as well because that's what my role is. I'm really good at connecting people and connecting people with good integrity. And that's how I did it. I said, I'm going to connect these people. I had the business owners pay me for that. And next thing I know, I was working hardly any hours a week and making about $4,000 or $5,000 a month doing that. That's how I did it. Now, I know I'm running out of time. I'm really short on time here, but let me bring up one more point. I want to bring back up to things about investing as well as debt and just bring it all together. When I talk to my clients about investments, right, and we're trying to figure out, do we invest money? Do we pay off a debt? Or what do we do? Again, I focus on the cash flow. What's going to give you the most cash flow? So, for example, if you knew you could put in, many of you probably might do $25,000 or $30,000 into a property with Ron, with the system, and then all of a sudden you'll probably get back, give or take. I mean, the net returns are awesome. I mean, they could be, if you factor in tax benefits and principal pay down and everything, it's 40-50+% a year, right? You know that. But even the cash on cash rate of return, if you look at that alone, if you can put $25,000 down to make $400-$500 a month, or up to that point, $300-$400, $500 a month, hey, you're probably going to think that's a good deal, right? Now, I put this in perspective for people because I asked them to compare that to their 401ks and IRAs. See, if you're lucky, after fees and everything else is considered, you're lucky to get a 5% rate of return in your 401k or IRA. So imagine this, $25,000, that same $25,000 at 5% is only $1,250 a year. That's just over $100 a month average. So when I look at that, I say, well, what's better? A real estate property is going to pay me $300, $400, maybe $500 a month, plus, because you get all the tax benefits and everything else, or $100 a month if I'm lucky, if the market smiles on me right. Which one do you think I would end up choosing? Yeah, I'm going to choose a real estate, right? Same thing's true with debt. Like if I'm looking to pay off a loan, I think, well, what would that do? If that, for example, I had a $25,000 SBA loan, a business loan that I had, a line of credit. That payment on that line of credit was $124 a month. So it's almost like that 401k, right? $124 a month for $25,000. You can darn well bet that I'm not going to try to pay off that loan at all anytime soon, right? Because I don't want to, because that's such a great cash flow, such a low payment. I'd rather take that $25,000 and put it somewhere else to make me more than $124 a month. So it's always about that cash flow leverage. Which one will pay me the most cash flow right away? And so I'm looking at that. So same thing with the home equity line of credit. Hey, I had another person that she was a business coach out there that she was listening when I was speaking. She said, I got a $40,000 line of credit. We're only paying $200 a month. Oh my goodness, if I pay off that $40,000, that's robbing my business. I lose a lot more than $200 a month. She's like, with $40,000, I can make thousands a month. I said, awesome, then do that. Here's another example. Even if it's not just debt, I had somebody that had a education plan. Now I have an investment advisor that helps me with some of these things. And he said, Chris, I got this college savings plan for my kids. It's got $50,000 in it. My kids got about 5 or 6 more years before college. What should I do? And I said, and we were talking about it, and I said, well, if you leave it in there, by the time he's in college, you might be up to $70,000 if you're lucky, right? He said, yep, okay, well, that's not very impressive. That's not very sexy. And I said, all right, well, let's ask you this. And he happened to mention in this, he's a chiropractor. He said, Chris, you know what? It's kind of cool. I can actually go drop $30,000 or $40,000 down and start a new office, and in 2 or 3 years, sell it for $250,000. And I had that flashback of my brother-in-law, right, that talked to me about the $10,000 he would use to use in his business. And I said, you know what? Why don't you play with me on this a little bit? If you were to take that $50,000, say you use that money instead to start your practice. Yeah, you'll have to pay a penalty on that. Taxes, they'll wash each other because you get a write-off and a tax income at the same time. So you pretty much have to pay a 10% penalty on that. But if say you use that $50,000 to start a new practice, you turn around, sell it 3 years later, make $250,000. Then you take another $30,000 or $40,000, put it into a new practice, sell it 2 or 3 years later, make another $250,000. With that $50,000, you just made $500,000 in about 5 or 6 years or so. By the time your kid goes to college. So which one would you rather do? Keep that money in a college savings plan, hoping and praying the market smiles on you, or put in something you can control and use that you understand and do well? And for him, and after he worked with my investment advisor that was on my team, he said, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to go for that. And he did. Totally just opened up his mind, his world completely. All of a sudden, possibilities were endless. That is the power. If you understand how these all work together, that is the power of what we teach right here. You start taking that, and oh my goodness, like imagine what that could do in real estate, especially if you understand it and do it well. And you have people on your team like Ron and everybody else, and Brandon, and all those other people that are helping you out. It's amazing what's possible. So anyways, I can go on for this for hours. I don't want to do that. I want to make sure this is valuable for you. And I know I went over a little bit over 40 minutes, but I wanted to give you guys extra value because I really want to know that you guys are getting extra value because of my relationship with Ron. So anyways, I know a lot of people will say, I don't want to be restricted with my cash flow. I don't want to feel trapped. You know what? That's not my style. That's not Ron's style, and that's not the way it should be. You shouldn't feel restricted. At the same time, you need to be committed. You can't be what I refer to as Doritos people. You can't just be empty calories, right? You got to be willing to actually do the work and do what's necessary that needs to be done. What do you need to change? We got to know your numbers. You got to absolutely know where you come from. Like I said, tracking your money and knowing it. Understand what's going on with your properties. You can't ignore them, expect them to keep paying you. I've done that before with real estate. I can guarantee you'll find yourself in a situation where your real estate is now gone or it's not returning the way you had hoped it would. You got to make sure you're always putting that attention towards it. You don't have to be focusing full time, but you do need to pay attention and be accountable and a good steward of those resources. You got to have a different mindset around money. You got to come from abundance and a steward perspective, not a scarcity, saver, or spender perspective. You got to be willing to do what's right for your family. I always laugh at people because they'll tell me, they'll say, hey, I want to use my accountant. And I say, your accountant's cost you $10,000 a year. And that's not including what you pay them too. And I said, who would you rather feed, their family or yours? Who do you love more? And of course they're like, well, of course I love my family. I'm like, well, why do you keep hiring them to cost you more money? That's ridiculous. Don't do that. You're the most important, and you're the most important for your family. That's where wealth is to be created. You come first. And so be willing to do what's right for your family, and be willing to do things differently. I tell people all the time, it's like George Costanza from Seinfeld. just do the opposite, right? I mean, here's the thing. If financial advice for the last 30 to 40 years, since the 70s when financial planners became more popular, if that advice has not worked up till this point, it makes you think that they're doing the same thing will create different results. I would actually bet that if it hasn't worked up till now, doing the opposite probably has better chances of working. Wouldn't you agree? And so, anyways, I've got lots of great clients. I'm not going to brag about them, but I've had one client out in New York that freed up $2,300 a month through one strategy. She was awesome. I had, I teach people how to find and free up cash that you don't see. People just don't see what's happening. Pay off debt faster, get more organized with your money, make more money in your business and with your investments. Understanding what's myth and what's truth when it comes to financial myths, because that's the one thing that usually limits you in your investing. Matt and Carrie, one strategy freed up over $2,600 a month. Was earth-shattering for them. Again, not the most. I've had people where they're only making $60,000 a year. We found $6,000 more a month because of the money they were losing from their businesses and such. If you're a business owner, it's really easy to find this money. Investors, sometimes that's possible too, especially when you have tax benefits and whatnot. So again, the results, what do you want? What are you really committed to? You want more money, cash flow today? Do you want more peace of mind? Do you want to have that relief and that stress and that be able to breathe easier, right? You want to be on the same page with your spouse or partner. I was doing an event up in the mountains of a ski resort up in the mountains of Utah here, and I had 3 couples up front sharing what they did to free up a lot of cash and become better off financially. All 3 of them shocked me because they all freed up anywhere from like $2,500 or so a month all the way up to $4,000 or $5,000 a month, right? And one of them came and said, Chris, that was awesome. I love that you freed up cash, but honestly, you saved our marriage. Be able to get on the same page and talk the same language, to become stewards together. We came in the middle because you usually marry your opposite. There's usually a spender and a saver in a marriage, right? Coming in the middle made it all better and seriously saved our marriage, and our life's so much different. Our kids, the way they see money is changing. It's influencing generations beyond us. I'll tell you, that meant a lot to me. I was shocked by that, but I realized that was huge. So be on the same page with your spouse or partner is key. Less stress and better quality life, because isn't it all about having a better quality life and ultimately having more confidence? So here's what I'm offering. So Ron promised this. Now, I didn't put this on here. I didn't want to make it all cheesy. I wanted this to be very informational for you guys. Normally, we charge $297 to do a money leak evaluation. So one of the guys on my team, he's been with me for 5 years. He's kind of like the Brandon Rooks of my company, right? Jeremiah Burns. He does my money leak evaluations for my people. The thing is, like, we try to find where you're leaking money, because we're all losing money one way or the other. Are we losing it from not tracking it? Are we losing it from debt? Are we losing it from taxes? Are we losing it from not maximizing the money we have? That's one thing that Ron loves about my clients, is that there's no mystery about where the money is. We know where the money is and how to maximize it all and do it in the right way. And so, be able to find all that kind of stuff, be able to find out where the money is. Oh, I had one client who was in real estate investing with another group of people. We freed up $900 a month in just insurance money alone that he was paying every single month. That insurance agent was all about the commissions. I said, to heck with that agent. It's all about you. I work for you, not them. Let's free up that cash and put you in a better situation. Freed up $900 a month just in insurance premiums alone. A lot of that was actually life insurance premiums, actually. So doing it the right way, huge. And so email me personally, chris@moneyripples.com, like you see on the screen here. And for the first 6 people, because I know Jeremiah's really packed. Actually, better say, yeah, probably just 6. I'd love to do more, but it's really tough. He's got a really tight schedule. So let's just say 6 people. First 6 people that email me, I'll just waive that fee, the $297. Granted, even if you have to pay the $297, it's more than worth it. And that's a guarantee. If it's not worth it, we give you your money back, plain and simple. But for the first 6 of you that see this and respond and email me, then we'll waive that fee and make that totally free. Just promise me that you'll be committed. You won't be a Doritos person with him. You'll actually be committed and actually keep your appointment and do that, because, like I said, it's valuable time that he has and has a lot of value to offer. And hey, if we can find more for you, awesome. Anyways, just as a reminder, as you already know, is that cash flow creates freedom. It creates more options in life. When you have more options, there's more freedom, and life is just better in general. So anyways, everybody, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your day, and I hope that I get to hear from some of you and serve you in any way, shape, or form. And if you have questions, you can also email me, chris@moneyripples.com, and say, hey, Chris, what do you think about this or that? Let me know. I actually do respond to my own emails. So anyways, Thank you so much, guys. You have a wonderful day.